All right, well, I don't really have like any crazy structure for this video, but I just wanted to sit down with Max and kind of talk about, I guess, the concept of just like one decision you can make will just change the course of your life forever. So if you're kind of someone that's like feels stuck right now with like where you're at in life, I think like regardless of what, I feel like this applies to like any business
Yeah.
model, not just like anything service based. Like you just, it's a matter of showing up every single day. And I mean, I feel like this is all like a testimony of it.
Last Monday, I made a decision to text Tommy because I was kind of like fed up with New Jersey because that's where I'm from. The snow, just like the gray winter,
Yeah.
and I am someone who's like kind of impacted by, I guess, my surroundings. I would say maybe more than others. I think every time I've traveled, I've always gotten like a great clean slate and understanding of what I need to get done. It's kind of like unfogged or twisted, like a jumble of ideas in my mind, and gave me great clarity and direction. So, me and Tommy have been kind of working together for the past like half a year, maybe even longer at this point. We've never met each other in person, and so I was like, "Yo, I want to get out of New Jersey, and I need to meet you because we've been doing so much work together." So we're here now. This week has already been so crazy.
Yeah, it's been
And
sick.
it's only
It's been unreal. It's like,
Monday
yeah.
or Tuesday. I forget.
Just-
See, that's like
yeah.
one thing. I've had that conversation
I
with
know,
so many
yeah,
people.
like it's so easy to forget the day.
Yeah, I've had this conversation with so many entrepreneurs that you don't really have like a structure of like weeks. It's just kind of like 24-hour periods and like a new 24 hours and then a new 24 hours. Just because, I mean, for me personally, like growing up, I'm only 18, so my whole like week structure was thinking in terms of school. So like Monday like through Friday, with Wednesday being like the kind of hump period to get through the rest of the week. Friday's awesome day. Saturday's like could go either good or bad, and then Sunday's like, oh, Sunday, like gotta start the week again.
Yeah.
But now that don't have that structure of like events based by week and like position within that week, every day kind of just feels like a new like 24-hour like slot to get as much done, and then you wake up the next day, it's just like a fresh page, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. There's no like random.
I look forward to
structure.
Monday sometimes, low key.
Well, like it almost feels like
Like-
every day is Monday.
Yeah, but like I don't know, like the weekend, people are like everything's a little bit slower, and then like Monday comes
Yeah.
around, and you're like, oh yeah, like I get to
Yeah.
do this for another week.
Because
it's
we
sick.
get to do what we love to
Yeah.
do every single day, so it's not.
I mean,
like,
how did we like get here though? I feel like
mean,
it's like
yeah, I get decisions, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I mean, from we today so we rented a Urus today because we have Tommy's car, but we're going out with a bunch of people later. We're just like, okay, cool, like we can rent a car. And we drove to your college.
Yeah,
and
that was a
like,
crazy
kind of
experience.
We were kind of talking a little bit about obviously like his decision to leave college. I also left high school. So, and I'm like finishing the year online, so I didn't like drop out like completely, but I like left the school like program and system to like go through college and obviously and like take my SATs and that whole fun little rat race. And kind of talked a little bit about how like all those decisions, like if you think about it, I forget what that theory is called, but like if like one little event in your life
Butterfly
changed-
effect.
Butterfly
Yeah.
effect,
Yeah.
that like you never know what could have happened or where we could have been based off all these random decisions.
Yeah, I mean, I like make the connection to like the smallest things. Like the reason you're in the position you're in is like because you've made a series of choices to get you there, and it's like
Right.
you don't know what tomorrow's gonna look like. You don't know what the week's gonna look like. You don't know what a year's gonna look like. You just have to keep showing up and making the decisions that you know are gonna direct you to where you want to be. And I think like that's like a big thing with like even when I DM'd you, like I didn't really have any like
Yeah.
crazy momentum. Like when I like first initially reached out to you, and like for some context, like I literally like sent Max a cold DM. Like as
Yeah.
funny as it is, it was like one line. It was like, "Yo, let me
Yeah,
like
let me
build
build
this
you this
funnel
funnel.
for you." It was like some
Something
like
like
it was
that.
like one line like,
It
"Yo,
was-
let me build this funnel for you." Or
And,
something like that.
and like in that moment, I had a decision to make.
Yeah.
Like, dude, I get hundreds of
Yeah.
those like every day
Yeah.
almost. Like so many people try and cold DM me to ask me for like positions or if they can come in and help or like pitch me on some new project or something like that. And a majority of the time, it's like I don't even like. It sounds like rude, but I just don't even like read them because so many of them are just like not great, or just coming from people who are just like unfortunately inexperienced. So it's just I'm not in a position right now where I can just like let somebody inexperienced like take a chance and like give them that because I I'm not in a position to be okay with just like risking like
Yeah, you
positions
can't
like
risk your
that.
own
Like I
business.
need 18 players in my agency.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I can't even really tell you what made me open your message. It
But
just
that's
kind
the
of like
thing is it's like
it just
that's
happened.
what people need to understand is I feel like it's so common for people to like go a couple months of doing outreach and they like don't have a client or they don't have any like results yet and it's like, oh, like I'm gonna quit and do something else. And it's like, no, like
Yeah.
you just haven't done it long enough to where like you've
Right.
seen the results. Like I genuinely believe that like if everyone who's like running some kind of service-based business, like, you know, for me it was copywriting, for other people maybe it's running a videography agency, maybe you're doing brand scaling, like anything. Like
Yeah.
I truly think it's a matter of like if you are like looking for your big opportunity to like, I guess like I throw the term like make it around like really
Yeah, like,
loosely
yeah.
because I feel like there's just levels to it. And ultimately, in my opinion, like making it is like
Well, like
it's not a
the
money
way,
thing.
so
It's
the way
like family and that kind of stuff.
yeah,
But
the way I have described outbound messaging to a lot of my guys, just to kind of help them get like through the frustration of it. I have this like little analogy and this like SOP that I've written called DM domination. It's like my entire framework
Yeah.
to helping all the fitness coaches I work with. More specifically on the outbound side, not inbound, I give this analogy like imagine you were told that out of like all the thousands of homes in your neighborhood, one of them had a check inside of it for you for like $1 million.
Yeah.
And like that you would go to every single door and
Yeah.
eventually like like probably not 999 wouldn't have it, but that one would.
yeah, you
And
go to
for
multiple
me,
homes
that's
a day
like
until you
exactly.
find it.
And I think like for you, it's kind of cool how that paid off, because with just like one DM that you sent and then one DM I chose to receive, opened the doors to like crazy stuff for both of us.
Yeah.
Like over the last 6 months, we've not only just like obviously become like really close friends, but created our own offer together within my
Yeah.
agency. Like bringing you along to do like complete rev share of projects in like certain weeks, and I've also just like been able to learn so much from you and like actually get a great understanding of what it takes to really take a company from like like okay, going from like $0 to $50,000 a month, like you can kind of brute force it, but like to go into that next level, like you really do need some solid.
Yeah, I
back
feel like
end.
that's the cap.
Yeah, that
Like
is,
the 50K a month is like the brute force cap that you can really.
I would say like 50 to 100. Like it depends
Yeah.
obviously on the service, and it depends on like how the ticket of the
Yeah.
service. But yeah, I would say like 50 to 100 is probably your cap of where you could just like brute force do everything yourself.
Yeah.
Especially with me, like when I was still in school and stuff, like it was like really chaotic, and putting my trust into you to making again like the decision right. Because like I don't trust a lot of people to come into my business.
Yeah.
'Cause I only trust myself. But being able to extend that to you off of a single message was kind of
Yeah.
life changing.
You know, it's like I always think of it differently now. It's like and I'm sure you can feel the same way. Like if we were to go back to like having nothing now, it's almost like, oh, like we'd be completely fine because we know that like
Yeah.
we know how to get there, and it's like once you realize that like it's all just an input game every single day. If you show up every single day and you send your 50 DMs or your 50 cold emails or whatever, you're eventually gonna find the opportunity that's gonna be like the butterfly effect of like this is going to lead to this and then it's going to lead to another thing and then it'll lead to something else and all of a sudden you
Yeah.
kind of like understand like, oh wait, like this is where all this took me, and then like all of a sudden a year's gone by and you've just like you look back and it's like whoa.
Yeah.
And I think that's so crazy.
Something I was talking with one of my clients about this week, kind of like perspective, right? For example, like if you look at the stock market on like an hour basis,
Yeah.
it's just like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's either like very volatile, or I mean, if you zoom in really far, I'm sure there's like even like no movement, right? It just like looks like nothing.
Yeah.
But if you like move out over time, like you go from like the minute or like 10-minute or hour framework to then like days, weeks, months, years, you get a much better perspective like how you've grown and how far you've come. And like sometimes I'm talking with someone like between like a call, maybe like 7 to 10 days, they're like, yeah, like not much has changed.
Yeah.
And it seems like like I'm going nowhere. But kind of to point back to what you said, I think to one of the people on your Instagram live, like sometimes like from the position that you're in, it looks like you're running in place, but then you look back a little bit, further into the future and you realize you were running forward. You just couldn't really tell.
Yeah, I mean, I always say I feel like you're making the most progress when you feel like you're making none. Like when you're like sending DMs with no results, and you're just kind of in this weird space of like, maybe you don't have the proof of concept yet for yourself, because that is a big thing. You're just kind of in this like weird void. It's so
Yeah.
easy to like, because you haven't seen that success yet, just be like, okay, I've done enough of this. And in reality, it's like, there's no set number. Like, I can't tell anyone how many number of DMs it's going to take to get a client. I can tell you that if
Right.
you do it every single day, eventually one of those days you're going to strike gold. And it'll just happen like that too. Like, it's not just like something where it's like,
especially like another thing is content creation. Like,
Yeah.
like a lot of people always wait to like. There's like two types of like I feel like going viral. Like some people I've watched personally. Like I've worked with like last year I worked with
yeah,
dozens and dozens of people
Yeah.
help them build like personal brands or scale up their personal brands, and there's like two types, right? I mean, third if you can count, right? Like, I mean, someone who's taking longer to progress,
Yeah.
or like whatever, or doesn't even give it enough energy and doesn't grow.
Yeah.
But from the people who are seriously putting in input every day, there's like kind of two types of people who get successful with it. There's one person who it's just like nothing, 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 and then randomly it's just like 5
Yeah.
million view video.
Yeah,
It's just like,
yeah.
whoa. And then from there, it's just like, brr. And I'll be honest, like, that's kind of what happened with me. I was like a long time ago when I started like doing like influencing and just like content, I was like making videos and like they would slowly grow like 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. And then one time, like this like mic'd up vlog I did just got like 2 million views.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, from there, it was just like, like everything just like the ball started rolling. But
Bro,
I've
that wasn't
also-
your first video.
No, yeah, exactly. And like I
Like,
had
you
to
made the
find that.
decision to
Exactly.
start posting content. You made the decision to post content every single
Right.
day, and then all of a
And
sudden,
every
like one
single
day.
I kind of went with the expectation that the video
Yeah.
almost wouldn't go viral, and just getting more obsessed with like actually putting in the input rather than just like constantly looking ahead and like I need to get
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
But the second type that I've seen is also just people who just like exponentially, just like 1,000, 3,000, 5,000, 10,000, 15,000, 20,000, and like
Yeah.
sometimes like we don't get that massive crazy decision made opportunity, and I think sometimes people look for that like literally like all at once life-changing event that like just happens just like that, where that one cold DM led them
Yeah.
to like a $50,000 a month retainer.
Yeah.
Like, that's like kind of unrealistic. But if you take a look at other like successful copywriters or like stuff like like Tommy,
Yeah.
like over time, like he didn't.
My
At
first
least I
client
don't
had
know.
like
like-
500 followers.
yeah,
But, like, it's like-
just like over time, it's just like drip feeding and creating like bigger. And when you step back, kind of perspective again,
Yeah,
when you
you-
look at it, you're like, oh wow, I did progress a lot.
Yeah. And I mean, at the end of the day too, it's like, I feel like in the beginning with so many things, like it's people like paralyze themselves of trying to be like, oh, I need to, I'm gonna wait to try to get a client because I'm gonna get good at something first. It's like, no, like you need to sell
Yeah.
every single day. You need to like do the input every single day to like move the needle forward. And I think like if you can identify like what's gonna move the needle forward the most in your day, like that's what's really gonna
Like high ROI
gonna help you.
activities.
And also, I feel like the other thing too that's so important is like the way you view like wins is huge. Like
Right.
so many people will be like, oh, like the first time I get paid like $5,000 is
That's
my
a
first
win.
win, and it's like no, like you need to look at you need to break down like every little step. Like let's say like you send your first DM, cool, like that's a little win, right? And then like maybe you get
Yeah.
someone leaving you on red, like that's another win, like you got closer, and
Yeah.
then you get a response, like that's close. Like you
the
need to break your
dartboard,
wins
like,
down.
Yeah, a lot of people like a dartboard. Like,
Yeah.
you're not like just because maybe in the beginning like you're hitting the wall, but then you get to like you slowly get closer to the bullseye. And if like all you think is a win is the bullseye instead of literally like an inch outward, like
Yeah.
you're always gonna be in a point where like you're constantly frustrated with yourself.
Yeah.
You're gonna like be your own worst critique, and that's kind of something
Yeah.
that highly recommend obviously
Yeah.
against. So, like I've just seen like a common trait amongst people who have a hard time moving forward really with anything in life. There's a difference between being like critical of yourself and like trying to constantly improve and like looking out for your mistakes and just learning, and then versus like constantly like talking bad on yourself, never being
Yeah.
proud of yourself, never being happy with what
I
you
so
achieved.
agree.
There's a very fine line, and I think a lot of people like step over it and cross into that like just toxic self relationship almost.
Yeah. I mean, I just think if anyone watching this, like if you guys were to get like one thing out of this video or anything, I just like, you just need to like trust the process that what you're doing every single day is setting you up for that one big breakthrough.
Yeah.
And it might take people 6 months, might take people a year, might take people 2 months. It just
You have to be
depends on the
okay with
person.
that,
You have to
though.
be okay with that, and you have to enjoy it too. Like, enjoy the process. You know,
Yeah.
like if I were to like, I mentioned this like in one of my videos before, like real OGs will recognize this line. Like, if I told you to go climb a mountain blindfolded and take the blindfold off at the top, you'd look at me like you're crazy. Like, what? Like, I want to enjoy the view on the way up. It's like, exactly. Enjoy the view on the way up.
Yeah.
Like, enjoy hitting the small wins. Reward yourself. Like, enjoy that. Because that's what's cool about it.
Exactly.
You can't just like be like, oh, I started yesterday and I'm on at 20K a month. Like, I'm done. I'm quitting. Bye. Yeah.
So, for example, with my offer,
Yeah.
right, from the start, I work with coaches for at least 3 months.
Yeah.
From there, like some people I work longer with different scopes of work, our custom projects and stuff. Some people I say like, hey, like, I don't see like just even like too like even it comes down to sometimes people are like making money and like definitely would want to keep working with me, but it's just like the relationship is like not really there. So yeah, I just really kind of mutually choose to not move forward. But there's a lot of people who think like when you buy into some sort of offer like that you are going to by the end of that like time frame of that work like be at your dream state. But the reality is that you definitely could, like, right? Like, I've worked with people who have grown, like, very quickly. But I've also worked with people who, like, for those 3 months, it was just, like, dirty work. And then, like, months later, text me they got their first client. And, like, because they kept going with that information after that.
Yeah.
So you have to go into almost everything expecting it to take longer. Because if you just have this, like, unrealistic time frame of, like, okay, I'm going to do cold DMs for a month. And if I don't get my first client, like, I'm done.
I'm done. I'm
going to
go do something else.
You can't walk in with that expectation.
Yeah. And I mean, too, like, the other thing as well, like, you also have to, like, look at it, I think, from a standpoint of what can you do to, like, accelerate that process? Like, for example, like, when I started, like, and I bought Mason's Inner Circle, like, I had $32 in my account after that. And I will gladly say it on the internet because, number one, I think it's funny. And number two, I think it's also a testament of, like, you got to be willing to take risks and bet on yourself.
My gosh, bro.
And it's like, if you can find a way to be around like-minded people that are trying to do the same thing, have information that is really good that will tell you, like, this is what you need to do, you can almost accelerate your process by simply just, like, having the right people in your corner, the right information. I think that's another huge part of it as well, is, like, when you try to, run in and do something alone for the first time, it's, like, really difficult. And I mean, like, even if, like, you're someone who, like, really wants to get started with something, but, like, you don't have any money to invest, like, go find a YouTube creator in that niche that you really enjoy and just follow their content. Feel like, that every single day you're going to watch a video of theirs to learn something more. Like, dude, when I started, like, I think learning is, like, such a important thing every single day. Like, when I started, for example, like, I bought, like, a JBL speaker from Amazon. I just carried it around my house, and I would just blast, like, podcasts, learn, like, anything I could get my hands on of just, like, marketing, outreach,
like
client
my
acquisition,
whole thing. Like,
anything.
I wanted to be so good, like just like good at what I did. Where eventually I knew that down the line, that skill, like once I had clients and I like like my results spoke for themselves. Like it was just like, oh, Max isn't like just like leveraging a lot of eyeballs, or Max isn't just leveraging like this or that. Like Max is just good at what he does.
Yeah.
Like that. It's just simply, and so like I think like taking in, and not being also like afraid and kind of putting your pride aside to understand that in the beginning, like you just don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And like I think a lot of, especially like younger guys, want to feel like very like alpha and like they understand everything, like they got it. But to just be truthfully honest with you, like you don't, and I don't as much as and Tommy doesn't. Like we all, nobody knows everything. And I feel like the most successful people will tell you that the most. Like if you look at Hermosi, bro, like I bet Hermosi reads like multiple books a week and stuff like that. Like, he's probably like a giant. Like,
nobody ever
sponge.
stops learning.
So because like information is just like limitless.
I'm actually really curious. Like if you had to like go back to square one, like right now, like literally this minute, what would like you do? What would be like your plan? Like I guess like how would you do it differently than when you initially started? I think. Like what would like your advice be to someone?
Well, first I'd probably be like, dang. I'd be like,
yeah,
dang,
what happened?
Oh my
yeah,
gosh,
yeah.
I just did all that. No. In all seriousness, okay, if I just got shot back to the beginning, maybe like a clarifying question: do I know everything I know now or no?
Yeah, I feel like that's fair for it. Yeah,
Right?
I feel like that's like I feel like it adds.
Because here's the thing, like the kind of like paradoxical question about that is like if I know everything I know now, then is it really back to where I was?
Exactly.
That's the thing. Two.
Yeah,
then
that's
if
true.
I know I was gonna be here, then would I work as hard and put those inputs in? So here's the thing, like if I went back and like to make this question like harder and kind of different than what it usually is, if I went back and I didn't know anything I knew, but in some weird way, I guess I could, like have slight foresight to like, just know principles.
What
Not-
about like
not
having a
knowing
conversation with your like younger self?
Okay, that's cool. Yeah. If I had to have like a conversation with my younger self and I couldn't tell him like direct answers to will you be successful or something
Yeah.
like that, but like, it's almost like a genie. Like there's certain things you can't ask. So if he was like, all right, like how much money are we making here? I can't tell you. How, or, like where are we gonna? I can't tell you. But if he asked me like tactical advice questions for the place he was in, it's actually kind of similar to conversations that I've had with my little brother. I actually funny like story that kind of branches into kind of what I would say to myself. My little brother wanted to get into drop shipping. Surprise, but he's like 13 years old, so yeah, awesome. Like he's at least he's doing something than like playing video games or whatever. And so I told him that if for an entire month he watched some sort of video or like course something on YouTube, if he did that every single day and took notes, that he wasn't just like kind of blindly like jumping into something and like wasting time. I told him that I would give him a few $100 for his ad spend on TikTok.
Yeah,
and he
that's
did
awesome.
that, and I gave him the money. I think I would emphasize, and it's something that I'm happy to say I did do, so I kind of honestly would just like reinstill the importance of it, that in the beginning, it's so important that you kind of focus more on learning and not earning, right? And it's like taking time to understand that you're not going to be able to collect like the massive pay in fulls that you see like me or like Tommy like collecting, because like truthfully, again, you have to put your pride aside to understand that you're not as good at what you're doing as you think you are. And when you're handling other people's trust and money and time, you have to be fair with your skill. And so maybe in the beginning that looks like free clients or low paid clients, and taking that time to do like the dirty work will take you so far. Because for me, like I know, right, like after my first like 6 months of working on this offer, I like really had no cash collected. And then once I got to a point where I was like, okay, like I really do think like I'm worth the dollar price point that I put on this, then I went from $0 to $50,000 a month in 3 months over the course of last summer. Because I had like built up all this stuff in the background that like nobody really sees. And I think for me, for example, like if I come out online and say I went from 0 to 50K in 3 months, it's just misleading, because there was like all this work I did in the back, like, prior to that, where I was like just like honing in on that skill. So I kind of said a lot, but to summarize, I would, like putting your pride aside to learn as much as possible, humble yourself, and work for people, with people, and continue to hone your skills so that when you are ready to charge those awesome prices and go tell the entire world about your service, you are ready.
Yeah, that's golden advice.
Yeah, what
If
about
I
you?
can go back in time and have a conversation with myself, I think I would say, like, if you hit your inputs, it's a good day. I think that's a big thing to understand. Like, I feel like so many times, like, I can kind of trace back to, like, when I started, I would have these days where I would just be like, oh, nothing's working. Like, I'm not doing anything. Like, it's, I'm not seeing results yet. I don't have a client yet or whatever. But, like, if I could just tell myself, like, okay, I showed up today. I did DMs. I learned. I practiced. Like, I did everything I need to do to move the needle forward. It's a good day, and you shouldn't be down on yourself, because eventually, if you have enough of those days, eventually you're going to hit the day where like
Right.
all those pay off,
Yeah.
and you find your golden opportunity. And I think the other thing too is just understand the concept that if one person can do it, a lot of times anyone truthfully can, and it's possible. Like if someone else has done what you're trying to do, in the general law of the world, it's possible. Like. People land clients through outreach every single day. You just have to find the method that works for you to actually get there.
The table is like big enough to eat at for everybody.
Yeah.
Like you just got to pull up a seat, bro. It's not that.
Yeah.
It's not like we're running out of space online. There's quite frankly like millions of online businesses that you guys can pitch to. It's just the reality of it. And sometimes it can feel small within like maybe the pool of like leads that you've built, and there's only a few hundred, but that's not all of Instagram. Like there are millions of people on here. And I think another thing, like kind of stemming off the first thing you said, I hear so many people kind of saying like, oh, like I did, like there's nothing left for me to do today. So like I'm just gonna kind of do this, but trust me, there's always something you could be doing. Like, I promise you, like even if you think like, if you sent like, okay, like, your daily KPI, like if, I don't know, if like Tommy's your copy coach and he said, okay, I want you to send 100 today. And then you get to 100 and it's like 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
Like you have more hours. Like, so either, yeah, like go learn or just keep going. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, there is more stuff you could be doing every day.
And I think as well, like, prioritize, like, yourself as well in that. Like, keep an active lifestyle. Get outside every day, take worthy breaks. Like, when I started, like, I was like, when I had like no clients, I was like, wake up, I do a bunch of cold emails. I'd go on a walk, I'd go to the gym, then I'd come back, I'd do more. I'd, hop on a coaching call in Inner Circle that day, and then do more outreach later. And that was kind of my day. Yeah, honestly, you just got to keep showing up, and eventually I think you'll hit whatever you're trying to hit. It's just a matter of time. And I think that's an important thing. And don't get down on yourself, Don't allow yourself to get in your own head and tell you that you're failing, you're, not succeeding at something. Like, you're building something, and it's all leading up to that big breakthrough. You just have to show up long enough to actually see it happen. I can't even tell you how many days I was like, I wonder if I'm ever gonna, make something work. I wonder if, this isn't meant for me. But the difference was I didn't listen to it. That's really all you got to do. You just have to tune that out enough. Yeah, I mean, that's really what I would say. So.
Where are you now?
Yeah, and all of a sudden now, a year later from starting, I'm in a penthouse in downtown San Diego.
Bro, like last
It's
year,
just
this time
crazy.
I would have been like
Taking a year to
doing
like, okay,
homework, getting ready for tomorrow.
Yeah.
To like go to school.
It's wild. I was registering for classes, and then I decided not to a year ago today.
Yeah.
Just a couple things to wrap this video up. If any of you want to hop in my free Telegram, I literally just come on there every single day and just rip some voice notes on whatever you guys want. You can just DM me on Instagram if you want like any topics for me to talk about. Basically just like business, life advice, the whole 9 yards in there. I've done voice notes on how to get clients. I've done voice notes on, how to balance work in your life. And it's really just like a way for me to kind of share my thoughts and share lessons as they come up. Also, if you want to join Copy MBA Inner Circle, that's basically what I did a year ago, and I attribute a lot of my success to that. I mean, I would not be here if it wasn't for that. I'm just fully transparent. That's what helped me. I'm going to leave the description down below. If anyone is like looking for some sort of guide or help, I feel like that is the best place to start if it's specifically copywriting. So that link's in the description below. I myself don't have any kind of course or mentorship. I just be doing this full time. But if anyone wants, any one-off advice, just DM me on Instagram or hop my Telegram. And make sure to subscribe. No, I'm just kidding.
Smash that like button.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really it. Trust yourself. Trust the process. You just have to show up enough days, So, yeah.